In this video, we're going to take a look at how to write a really good supporting research question. You'll be given the big idea for your project, your whole topic, but in order to break the big topic down into separate sections, you need really good supporting research questions that guide your research as you go along. I think this is the hardest part of the whole research process, is at the beginning where you're trying to develop your questions, because each of these questions has to support a whole paragraph of writing usually. So let's take a look at what I mean. Let's pretend you're doing a research project on ancient Egypt, on the ancient Egypt pyramids. So here's a question: how tall are the pyramids in Egypt? Well, that's a great question, and there's probably a really great answer like 2,000 feet or something, but it's a one-word answer or a one-fact answer. You can't write a whole paragraph just with the fact 2,000 feet tall. So your question has to be a bit bigger than that. The same thing with what materials did they use to build the pyramids? Let's say they used limestone rock. Again, you can't write a whole paragraph with one fact. So if your question only has one fact as an answer, or if the answer is yes or no, that's not a good research question. Let's see how we could reword it. You could make it a bit bigger and say, how did they build the pyramids? And that would you could talk about the materials they used. You could talk about how tall it was. All those facts would go under that big question. Let's try another one. This question, what jobs did people do in ancient Rome? That seems good. There's not one right answer to that. It's not a yes or no question, but that's a really, really big question. You could probably write 2 or 3 books on all the jobs people did in ancient Rome. It's like saying, what kind of jobs do people do in the United States of America? There's so many that's just way too big. So you'd have to make it smaller and be more specific. Maybe what was a senator's job in ancient Rome? Or what was a storekeeper's job like in ancient Rome? You'd have to really narrow it down to make it a little smaller in order for you just to make one paragraph of writing on it. So let's go over the rules for research questions. They shouldn't have just one right answer. They need to be big enough to support a whole paragraph. So they can't be too big either, but also not too small. And just remember, it has to connect to your big topic or your big question that you have. Sometimes people go off in different directions, but it has to connect to that big question. We're going to take a look at some. A lot of times you do some background research, and as you do some research, you put your topic in the middle and you jot down different topics, different headings in a chapter, things like that, so you get a sense of your topic. And from that, you can add questions. So this whole section had to do with why an aqueduct was built. This whole section talked about how and the methods, and then this one talked about how they worked. So those would be good sub-questions for your big question, what were aqueducts like in ancient Rome? You could talk about why they were built, how they were built, and how they worked. That would be great questions for your big question. Let's look at another one. What were crafts like in ancient Egypt? If you get a big topic like this, you could divide it up into different kinds of the big topic. So pottery was a type of craft, and you could do a whole paragraph on pottery, a whole paragraph on woodworking, and a whole paragraph on metal crafts. You just divide up the type of crafts into 3 different kinds. That would be a good way to do it too. Here's another one. What was war like in ancient Egypt? Well, war encompasses a lot of things, and in ancient Greece, they had a big navy. So you could do, what was the navy like? What was the soldiers' training like? And some battles that they fought. That would be a good way to do it. What were homes like in ancient Egypt? You could divide it up into kinds of homes. What were rich people's homes like? What were working people's homes like? And what furniture did they have in their homes? So are you starting to see how you break the big topic up into 3 different ones that you could research that could be your paragraphs in your essay? So let's go over the rules again. There's not just one right answer to your question. It has to be big enough to support a whole paragraph. But it can't be too big, right? Not too big or not too small, and it has to relate to your big topic or your big question.